you guys, I'm Dustin Lindbergh, the blind Minnesotan. Today I want to talk about what my parents do for a living because it's a part of my life. It's a part about how I live my life. And to promote Minnesota and to promote why blind and visually impaired people should live here, I have to tell you about how my life is, so then you guys can know why I love this state and I'm trying to promote this state and why I want more blind and visually impaired people to come move to the state of Minnesota. And also, our state is a little bit more affordable than living in a place like New York, Washington State, Oregon, California, Texas, and Florida. So if you're blind and visually impaired and you're just living off Social Security and you need someplace affordable to live, my job is to inform you about Minnesota so then you can come live here. My dad, Charles, he runs a car body shop business. So be kind of like you sell your used car to GMC in Monticello, and your car has some nicks and scratches on it because right before you're selling it to a dealer, an old lady at the Walmart who does cashiering got pissed because you didn't leave her a tip, and she comes out and scratches your car with her keys and leaves these big dents, scratch marks on your car. And when you go to the car dealer, used car dealerships to sell it, before they buy it from you, before they sell it to the general public, they call my dad to come and will fix up those key marks. And then, so then when they put it back on the market, those used car dealerships can charge more money for it because now your car no longer has big key marks from that evil lady from Walmart. Or pretend if you are running away from the receipt lady at Walmart and she's chasing you. Show me your receipt. And she accidentally smashes her body right into the back of the end of your car as you're driving away without showing her your receipt. What happens is now you have a big indent of her face in your car. What happens is my dad can get that kind of stuff out when you want to sell it at the used car dealership. So then the car dealership can make it look nicer, and then they can make more money because the cars value more money. So my dad is the low income labor for the car dealerships. And because my dad's the low labor for the car dealerships, they use him to make for cheap to make the used cars look nice. And then once the used cars look nice, they're able to make a profit. If my dad wasn't willing to work his low labor job and make the used cars look nice, a lot of people will be driving around with really ugly used cars. So because of my dad's cheap labor and not charging a lot of money, these car dealerships can sell nice used cars and still make a profit without charging more money to the customers. Because if my dad charged more money for a service, the used car dealerships will have to charge more money for their service. And then you're paying more money for used cars at the end. So you guys just have to be happy my dad does his work for cheap. Because my dad's a cheap labor in the used car market. And then, because my dad's a cheap labor in the used car market, you guys can get used cars for cheaper because the used car dealerships have less of the expense, making it more presentable for sale. So, that's what my dad, I've been spending the last week with him, and I've been going to dealership after dealership after dealership after dealership after dealership with him that he works for. And a lot of times my dad's working in the bright sun, in the heat. He's sweating. It's, there's no bathroom nearby. So then just to get to the bathroom, we have to walk a half a mile just to get to a bathroom. If you didn't wear a hat and sun spray every day, you would get sunburn, because my dad's on this black surface lot, or in this parking ramp where they store all the cars on the top level, where you're being cooked and cooked and cooked by sun all day. And then takes my dad an hour to drive to these car dealerships and drive back. And then it takes my dad a few minutes when he gets to the car dealerships to find the cars that are damaged, that need to be fixed, and for the car dealerships. So, and then my dad charges less than $300 per bumper and less than $300 per door when he fixes them. So because my dad charges such cheap rates to fix the used cars, the used car dealerships don't have to charge as much money to you guys to make money. So my dad is the cheap labor of the used car dealership industry. If body shop work people like my dad did not do what they do, everyone in Minnesota will have very ugly used cars. My dad, there's a huge industry of people like my dad that do heavy body work, who fixes the used cars that got smashed into a pole. And they do a lot of heavy duty work. Those people like my dad. And then there's people like my dad who own their own businesses that do the small stuff. So without the people like my dad, Minnesota will have very ugly used cars. So if you have to appreciate the body shop working people in your life that makes your used cars look good. So my dad, I was with him. I'm going to be with him all next week just to see more what he does. And my dad, he every morning he wakes up, he grinds in the heat, he works in the heat. He has to hold in his pee for hours sometimes because there's no bathroom nearby where he is working. And then my dad just works for sometimes hours upon end working on one car bumper so it looks perfect. So then someone who's needing a used car, when they come in, they can get a nice, beautiful used car. And they don't understand that sometimes that used car might have scrapes, bumps, dents when they're buying it, but someone like my dad put hours into making it look nice. So people like my dad are a reason why a lot of people in Minnesota have nice looking cars. And then, my dad also has people come to the house. So if you have, a lot of cars you want done, or you don't want to go to a dealership to meet him, you can come to the house and then he will do it in his driveway for you. Or if you pay him, he can come to your house and do it in your driveway. His work zone is between St. Cloud in the north, south it's Mankato, and Rochester the other direction. So that's kind of his work zone. He goes from St. Cloud to the north. To the southwest, he goes to Mankato. The furthest he goes is to Mankato. And to the southeast, the furthest he goes is Rochester, when you want him to come physically to your house. Or you want him to come to a dealership and stuff. Because getting to either one of those directions takes him about an hour. And takes him an hour or more to get home based on traffic. So my dad, he does this body shop work, and I've been posting pictures, at least if you guys didn't see them, on my Instagram. So if you guys go to Dustin Lindbergh 2 on Instagram, you will see pictures of what my dad does for a living, because a lot of blind, visually impaired people are like, how can Dustin have access to these car dealerships? How can Dustin have access to get out here? Because the reason why I do is because my dad works at those car dealerships. In the last week, I've been going with him to these car dealerships, taking pictures, seeing what he does, sitting in the hot sun, helping my dad work, and when he's thirsty, sometimes I'll run to the gas station next to his place, if there's a gas station, get him some soda and stuff, because my dad does work in the very extreme heat, making used cars look nice. My stepdad, Ray, he is a nurse, and he's a nurse in a hospital in Fort Myers, Florida. And he does, he's a float nurse, so he does, everything. So if they need him in the ER, he goes to the ER. If they need him in OB, helping pregnant women give birth, he's in the OB. If they need someone help getting a blood drawn because of something they need, he does that. If they need someone help giving shots, he does that. So he lives in Fort Myers, Florida, with my mom, Rose. My mom, Rose, is also a nurse, but she is an HR person who trains more nurses for a place called Lee Health down in Fort Myers, Florida. And what happens is, when you get a job at Lee Health in Fort Myers, Florida, my mom, Rose, is the one that trains you how to do the job and that you applied for at Lee Health in Fort Myers, Florida. So my mom is like an HR person, and she lives down in Florida, and she pretty much does HR nursing. So when you apply for a job, she teaches you how to do your job at Lee Health in Fort Myers, Florida, and then once from there, once you know the basics of your job, the department manager takes over. So my mom, she comes up with training material, PowerPoints, the videos the people at Lee Health do. When my mom was up here in Minnesota about 6 months ago, she did assessments. So she would go to for Hennepin County. So she would go to homeless encampments, disabled / low income people / homeless people who are living on families' couches. And then she would say, okay, you want assessment from Hennepin County. She does the assessment saying, okay, you can qualify for these services, apply for them. And then you could apply for them. And then you definitely know you will get those services because someone like my mom said you would get them. Or if you need help applying for them, my mom would drive someplace within her old job for Hennepin County, meet up with you at a McDonald's or whatever near your house, or where you're staying, or the homeless shelter you're staying with. And she would help you do the paperwork. Because my mom's last job, when she worked for Hennepin County, her job was to get homeless people and disabled people and low-income people who work minimum wage jobs find affordable housing and get access to MN Care. MN Care is the insurance for low-income people that the state of Minnesota provides. It's called MN Care. She'll help you apply for MN Care. She'll help you get into affordable housing. In Minnesota, affordable housing, your rent will be $850 a month. Or $950 a month. Because most housing in Minnesota, it's $1,400 a month for a studio. But those are nice apartments. But my mom, her goal will get you to any apartment. So, and some of the basic apartments in Minnesota are between our low income are between $850 a month and $950 a month. So that's considered low income in Minnesota. And then if you want like mid-income, that'll be $1,200 to $1,500 a month. That's mid-income. And then if you want high-income apartments, they'll be from $1,500 to $2,500. So Minnesota has a lot of like income ranges. So my mom's goal would get you into low-income apartments. Plop you in there, say, okay, this is your new place, help you get on Social Security, and then what you do is she'll have you use your Social Security to pay your rent. So then your Social Security will pay your rent, and then my mom would help you get on food stamps to help you buy your groceries. And then my mom will get you onto Obama Phone. Obama Phone is a government phone, and it's like a prepaid phone. So you get so many free minutes a month and so many free texts a month. And then once you go over that limit, you have to buy yourselves more minutes. So my mom would get people on those Obama phones, and then, she would help you get on, food stamps, so then you could go and buy food. And then, so my mom would, like, do those services stuff at her old job in Hennepin County. But after she built her house in Florida, she, like, wanted to go down there. So then she moved down there, and she became a HR person for Lee Health in downtown Fort Myers. So that's what she does. My stepmom, Jess, who lives here in Minnesota with my real dad, Charles, she does, like, material testing. So when China invents a new product to be sold in the United States, right, it needs to make sure it's safe. So what happens is these Chinese companies or Indian companies or Vietnam companies or Indonesian companies ship their stuff to the company in Foley, Minnesota, where my stepmom Jess works. And then once they're shipped there, my stepmom Jess tests them. So she makes sure that the products are safe. And then once she makes sure the products are safe, that's when they tell the government, hey, these are all our tests. These are what we found out are the faulties of the products. These are the risks of people buying these products. If they really want to sell this product, they have to improve these things to meet American quality standards. So then once everything meets America's quality standards, that's when my mom and her such company, her stepmom, Jess, and her company works for, sends that data to the federal government. And then the federal government will approve it or not. And then once it's approved, those companies can sell their products at places like Home Depot, Menards, Walmart, Target, Costco, Sam's Club, Amazon.com. So my stepmom, Jess, works for like a testing place. So she does like all these, sometimes she gets to use a saw and she gets to cut products open and see what's in the inside of those products to make sure there's no lead paint or any dangerous chemicals in the paint, or make sure the quality of the product's not going to deteriorate in 2 weeks. So sometimes she gets to cut shit open and see what's on the inside of the product. And so then, like, the government can have a document of what's in the product. So my stepmom, Jess, she's a product tester. And then, my last 2 jobs were, I used to work at the Mall of America, where I was, selling Nickelodeon Universe tickets. And then some days I was in the theme park selling ice cream, soda, all the food kind of products. And then I was in the Nickelodeon stores selling Nickelodeon products. I was in the Mall of America stores selling Mall of America products. I was at the information desk selling rental scooters, rental shopping carts, that kind of stuff. And then, I was also watching out when I was at some of the desks for dangerous things coming in the mall, making sure no one's bringing in guns and all that stuff. And then when someone was, I called security, and then mall security dealt with it. So then I was kind of the spy for mall security. So then, because if you want to do something dumb, do not do it by the entrances of the Mall of America, because the people sitting there are part of security and we are spying on you. And if you do anything dumb, we would report you to the mall security and they will deal with you. And then I did DCM Services. DCM Services was a debt collection agency so what we did was we called dead people's families and we said, hey, do they have any assets that they can sell to pay off this debt? And if they didn't, we just moved on. And if they did, we could help them make a payment plan to pay off their debt with Chase Bank or whatever creditor they had debt to. So I worked for a debt collection agency. They laid me off. I left the Mall of America because I was bored working there and I was sick of taking the hour bus ride from downtown Minneapolis, where I live, to the Mall of America every day. And then the Mall of America, you get some odd shifts. So if you can't drive, it's kind of pain in the butt because you have to find the best bus schedule that goes around, or the train schedule that goes around those odd shifts. So I kind of got bored from the Mall of America, and then I moved to DCM Services, but DCM Services laid me off. So, and then before that, I worked at Nordstrom Rack. And I did cashiering, I stocked shelves, and then I left Nordstrom Rack to move to Mall of America because I was sick of Nordstrom Rack. And then before Nordstrom Rack, I worked at Total Wine. And then before Total Wine, I worked at CVS Pharmacy. And then before that, I worked at Toys R Us. And then before that, I worked at Cub Foods. And before that, I worked at McDonald's. So for the last 10 plus years of my life, I've been working in retail, going to college, working in retail, 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 working in retail. So when I got laid off from DCM Services, my most recent job, I'm like, okay, I only have 3 months left on my lease. I'm just going to use my savings, pay my rent, and I'm going to bum at my dad's house. I'm going to go to Florida, visit my mom. And then the last month and a half of my lease, that's when I'm going to start looking for a new apartment. So those are the jobs I kind of done. And I'm like 26. So, I still have more time. I'm more of what companies don't like, a job surfer, because I go to a job and then they promise me something like, okay, this is what you're going to do, and these are the hours you're going to work. And then they don't keep their promises. And then I'm doing something that they told me I'm not going to do because it's retail. That happens in retail. And then I'm doing a job that I'm not happy about, and I'm just doing to pay my bills to survive. And then, suddenly I'm there for 5 to 6 months, and I can't take this anymore because this job is so boring and so horrible, and they're not paying me what they promised, and they're not give me the shifts that I promised. So then I just get bored and I move on to a company that's a little bit more exciting. But once I find the right company that keeps their promises, keeps the pay, actually gives me pay increases I deserve because I dedicate a lot of time to a company, and that's when I'll probably stay longer than 5 to 6 months. So so right now I'm just chilling. I'm making this podcast. I'm helping blind vision impaired people learn about the state of Minnesota and all that stuff. And then my brother Caleb, he works for Xcel Energy. And so what he does is when you have a furnace break, you can call Xcel Energy, the power company in Minnesota, to tell them, hey, my furnace broke. Can you have someone come fix it? And then they send my brother Caleb out to go fix your furnace or whatever else is kind of broken in your home. Caleb does like furnaces, but if you have a gas leak, if you have a water leak, if you have electricity problem, like with the wiring, you can call Xcel Energy, the Minnesota power company, and they will send someone out there to help you. But my brother Caleb only does furnaces. So if you have a broken furnace and you're anywhere in Minnesota and you need someone to fix it, call Xcel Energy, and then they'll send my brother Caleb out there to help you fix it. And then my brother Taylor, he sells insurance in Coon Rapids. So if you guys want to go get some good insurance, go to the insurance companies out in Coon Rapids because my brother Taylor can hook you up out there. And then my sister-in-law Emily works at a school out in the Coon Rapids area, and she teaches children. So that's not bad. And then my sister Kylie is too young to work because she's only 15 and she doesn't have a driver's license, so she can't work. So, so that's what my parents and all that do for a living, and my family kind of do for a living. So I hope you guys find this podcast episode interesting, and please share it and listen to it with your friends. Bye-bye.